How's it going, traders? Darnell Price here. Welcome to another Momentum Movers. It's the weekend, and you know what that means. It's time for another market recap and forecast.
Gold and NASDAQ both went higher, drew liquidity, only to sell off. NASDAQ most notably breaking below the bottom of the weekly balance range. We got the pot stirring between Putin, Trump, and Zelensky. We got non-farm payrolls on Friday. All kind of things going on in these markets. What does it mean for the upcoming weeks of price action? Let's figure it out. Go ahead, sit back, hit that like and subscribe button, turn on that notification bell so you can catch up on all the updates from Momentum Movers. And let's sit back, break apart these charts, and see where we can get active in these markets. All right, so let's get right into it. If you remember last week, we started in this balance range and we were trying to see, if we would draw liquidity early or whether that was the week before last. Let's move our timestamp down to Globex right here. All right, so we sold and we broke back out and we were looking to see if we could get back inside of that balance range. I think we had three paths. One was for being bullish if we could get back in this range and break out to the upside. I want to say we were neutral as long as we stayed in between what were those levels, 21,965 and 21k even, right? If we drop down to a smaller time frame, like let's say the hourly, and go back to Sunday's price action for this previous week's Globex, we immediately did not find any acceptance, nor did we try to get to that upper balance range, right? We stayed lower and sold off. We were looking at that 400 level, 21,400 as the Rubicon on whether or not we would be bullish or bearish. The yellow line right here, orange line right here. We did retest it and reject, selling off, and we broke below the lowest low on the weekly range, weekly, daily, high time frame range. Also drawing liquidity below that relatively equal low we had on all major time frames. So whatever time frame you look at above a 1 hour, you can see those relatively equal lows. We broke below that as well, right? So we have met a downside objective, and it leads us thinking, where do we go from here? If I had to look at pathing for this upcoming week, where am I bullish? Where am I neutral? Where am I bearish? Off top, so we could get rid of this balance range up here. I'm not really, if we get up there, of course we're bullish, but the 21,400 to 21,200 range, that would be here and here. Let me move these around. These numbers are moving around. But yeah, so this is where we get extremely bearish below that. But if you're looking for a cheap short, the cheap short still comes anywhere below 400. So let's go over the bull case first. Let's start there. The bull case is anything that gets us above 21k 400, right? Especially if getting above that breaks us out of the top of 2196. I'm not in that band camp. I don't feel that's an option. If it is an option, it's definitely not for this week. At the most, I could see us rejecting at that level and maybe putting in bearish structure there as well. So the bull, but forget my bias. Just if you were gonna trade long, what would trading long in this upcoming week look like? It would look like getting above 400, maybe having some pull back down to and retesting 400, and trying to test the top of the high time frame balance range that we entered into. That top being 21,965, right? If we break above and continue, good. All-time highs are on the table. If we reject, I would like to see what would happen on a rejection of 965. What would happen if we came down to say 21,400? Do we use it as support and put in a higher low off of this lower, this breaker structure we had to the downside on the weekly, daily, 4 hour? Those kind of questions would enter my mind after a test of the high of the balance range. what does neutral look like in this environment? So neutral is anything that hangs around 21,400, just putting in volume and oscillating in this range, right? You know, it's a wide range. It's still a pretty big range. As far as my, you know, I don't really have, neutral is a wide range. It's it's high volatility. It's high, you know, it's a trader's paradise, right? As long as you're picking the right entry locations and you're managing risk. Neutral is anything that hangs around, oscillates around 21,400, right? The bear case, and it's probably hard to hide, I am pretty bearish of this market. What does the bear case look like? Bear case is anything that rejects 21,400, anything that rejects 21,250, and breaks below and stays below 21K period, right? 21K period is the Rubicon, especially accepting below that lowest low on the weekly balance range, 20,768, 763. Anything below 763, if we find ourselves below 763, 20,763, that's where I'm extremely bullish, and I'm looking to accept inside of this balance range, this lower balance range that you could see. I think if I switch to a 4-hour, it'd be more apparent, but let's clean up this chart a little bit. So for now, we're well aware of the upper balance range that we left. I'm gonna take it off, and I'll leave those levels there, I think. But as far as this week's price action, of course, we all know about 21K, so I could take that level off as well, right? But I just don't want to screen cluttered with levels. These are last week's levels. If I were to look for this week's levels, what am I interested in? I'm looking to get below paste. I'm looking to get below and stay below 20,892. With confirmation, if we find acceptance below last week's, the one level I'm taking from last week is 20,763. The bottom side of this balance range. So 19K, yes, a 19, a 1 and a 9 is the first two digits, but 19,815, right? 19,815. Getting down there, you know, getting below that is extremely bearish. But again, we have a decent 1,000-point range that we could trade inside of this week, if and only if we build structure and find acceptance below 20,892. And you know, this little 100-point range right here, 20,892, 20,763. Finding support, if we hold that little range, this 100-point range as support, and find ourselves back inside of last week's range, then you know, things could get, that's where you get neutral to bullish. But me myself, I'm looking to find acceptance on the bear side below this case. And you know, if we do come up and test 21,400, then I'll just consider that as a cheap short, and I'll still try to, you know, find a trade back down to this lower balance range, right? That's what I'm looking for as far as that. Let's look at the momentum and see. All right, so taking a look at the momentum chart, starting on the monthly time frame. If we just look at straight candles alone, we can look at the monthly candle, and the first thing that I notice is this big upper wick, denoting that sellers did come in pretty aggressive, not only getting us below, you know, last month's open, but selling off and finding acceptance much below last week's open, last month's open. Even though we did have that late rally at the end of the day on Friday, getting us back up a bit, it's still a pretty bearish candle. On the bar to bar count, we do have a higher high, but we also made a lower low, so it's a bit of an outside candle. But from the all-time high, if this is going to materialize into a swing high, we are making progress on the bear case. A notable level that I'll be looking for is 20,000. Is that 20,139? I think that's a significant level. If we did want to just go sideways on the monthly chart, I'll put an alarm there, because that, just looking at it right now, if we did want to find support, that would be a decent area to find support, just in context of the high time frame trend, where we have a low down here created in August, November, September, October of the Q4 of 2022 going into the beginning of 2023, where we had a low, higher low, higher low, equal low. That's also a decent level. I'll put an alarm there, and we'll look at those levels a bit more in detail later. But yeah, and then we had this, which could be a higher low if we turn around and go up this next month, the month of March. If the March monthly candle is a sizable green candle and we go up, then this would be a higher low. Or the alternative is that we consolidate on a monthly time frame, we enter into a stagnation type of economy, and we just go sideways for a few months. I don't know how trading would be during an environment like that. It is a pretty big wide range. That's at least 2,000, 2,500 points. Let me just measure it from all-time highs to that level. Yeah, about 22,000 points of price action. And where are my glasses? Because that's why I'm squinting. Apologize. But yeah, so that's a notable level. If we break that, then the objective would be these equal lows down here. If we turn on the momentum and see what's in store, I don't want levels and momentum for this. I just want momentum. All right, and let's drop down to a weekly chart. I do see that we have support around that general area on the weekly time frame. So this current weekly that we're coming up, it is possible to test that 21,000. What level is that? Apologize. 21,100. So I think that's 120, right? I'll be looking at that level. If that breaks, then we have bigger fish to fry to the downside. Switching down to the daily. The daily, like I say, Friday, it closed green Friday. But that was a bit of a, I guess you can consider it a short squeeze. There is resistance up here at 21,080. I'll put an alarm there too, and those will be key levels of where momentum could shift. So 21,080, 20,120. And to the extreme, we have levels as low as 17K, but we got to get through 19K before we get there, right? But just, keep in mind 21,100s and 20,100s, the low 100s. Those would be the levels I would look for. As far as places that momentum could shift, you could even 19,800 as well. So, yeah, we'll add those levels to the level chart. If we switch down to a 4-hour, I probably won't go any lower than that. Basically for the next few 4-hour candles, the objective, if you're bearish, is to stay below 21,232. So that's also another level that I'll be mindful of. A place where momentum could shift. If we get above that, things could get short-term bullish, getting us all the way up to the 21,700, 735, which is a level that I remember from last week. I think on the levels chart, that was a red line. That's this line up here. If I am on a 4-hour chart, I think I had 750 up here. It must have been one of the ones I deleted. This is 750 up here, right below that, right? So Just keeping that in mind. I'll update the levels chart in a minute before I wrap up this video. We'll get everything on one screen. But momentum, as far as the cheapest short that I could see, would be the 21,230s. I probably won't take any shorts above that level. I'll probably look for scalps in both directions. But I don't want a long below 21,230, knowing that that's a good place for us to turn around. There is a decent trade up to that level. If you take it on small size. We are in a high time, what seems to be the start of a high time frame move to the downside. So, if you're gonna take longs, take them on small size. Wait on decent location for shorts, and you may be able to, if you manage risk well, to take some sizable trades to the downside. If we do get above that 21,230s, then it may be an opportunity for two-sided trade. Getting above 21,750, that's where I'd be looking to get long, right? So if we get above 750, I could make a decent case for a bullish move up north. I'll update the levels chart, considering, now earlier I was looking at levels without any consideration of momentum. This is the first time I'm going through my weekend prep, and this is what it looks like. So I will probably update the pathing to denote bullish opportunities above 21,007, and the cheapest short being below 21,230. We can take a look at the hourly time frame. Hourly time frame is slightly bullish. Again, just watching that 21,230 level. Okay, let's go ahead and look at, so 21,230. It is right here, and I did leave that one on the screen. 20,890. I can't remember why that was there. We'll get rid of this level. 20,008. Oh, I already have 892 right here, so that'll suffice. And then I remember this level. This would be what would be a decent bottom of the next weekly range. 19.8. That's a duplicate level. And 19.9, that's this dashed line right there. 20,350. I want to say that would be the midpoint of this range. It needs to be orange, and that would be a significant level as well. All right, so these are the levels at which I would be most comfortable getting active. Let me try to organize them somewhat. Okay, and then I'll just denote this dash line as 21,000. All right, and then we have the 200s, and this is where I'm bullish up here. If we do break it, this is where I would not mind taking a trade to the long side at the 21,640s, and we just talked about that on the momentum chart. All right, so these are the levels that I'm looking for, areas where you can take the cheapest trade, areas where you can manage risk most effectively and efficiently. And if I stick to my rules, be patient, and wait on these levels and not trade in between, and also look, if I trade my strategy and I trade around these levels, I think that'd be the best setup for success. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at gold and see what we got there. All right, so taking a look at gold on the levels chart, if we zoom in, we got our levels and the same chart we had on the last weekend video, where we were in this balance range up top, and we were looking for lower prices. I think we had a trade, if I switch down to the 4-hour, where we were looking to remain below this low, and that's the low of 29,973. We did wick that drew liquidity, and as I was saying in the intro, sold off. This was the pathing we were looking for, where we would go up, test the top of that balance range, drop below the bottom, retest, and look for failure and absence of acceptance in that balance range. That path did play out pretty nicely, denoted by this red line we have here. We could go ahead and take that off. Going into this current week, so let's see, right here, this would be Friday's close. And I think we should look at the momentum chart. I think we made that mistake on NASDAQ, is not respecting, you know, just where is momentum shifting, where can we look to see a shift in momentum, pretty much, right? So looking at the monthly time frame, gold is still bullish, right? Even though I think I said last week, even though I think we could have a pullback into the 2800s, we did get there, not as low as I thought we would go. There's still opportunity to do so. Or did we get down? Yeah, we got down to 2803, 2800 even, pretty much, right? So gold may not go lower. It can. If we break that low, then there is opportunity to look for trades lower. But on the bar to bar count, we do have an obvious higher high and higher low. This monthly candle does show a bit of exhaustion to the upside, as sellers did try to take gold higher, making new all-time highs, but abruptly selling off, closing with the doji. That could be a bearish, that could mark a bearish top on the monthly time frame. I'm not oblivious to that. Just considering the momentum lower, maybe we do pull back. I do want to find levels to get active to the bull side, though, to the long side, right? That would be important. So looking at the momentum chart on the weekly, if we do continue the weekly sell-off, I could see gold going as low as the 2736. Not saying that we get there, but if we did get there, I would try to take, maybe we go a bit below on the wick. That would be a nice level to get active. I know when this next weekly candle prints, this moving average will be a little higher, but in the low 2700s would be a place to look for, even if it's just for a cheap scalp to the long side, right? But as far as shorting down to that level, again, we do have support around the 2800s, right? As low as 2813, 2802, right? We do have some levels to the downside where it may be opportunistic to get long, to get in a position to the upside. Do we sell off into it? Maybe. I have alarms there. If it does happen, I will try to get active at those locations, knowing that if we do continue to break down, the next significant support that I see would be as low as the 2725, right? Let's look at a 4-hour chart. So looking at the 4-hour, again, there is support below us on gold. Looking at around the low 2800s, that level keeps popping up. If on the wick, 2782. Basically, I'm not interested in shorting gold any longer, but at certain locations where I have these alarms, I wouldn't mind, sizing into a long, seeing if I could scale out and hold a runner for a decent move to the upside, knowing that if some of these levels break, then you may find an even cheaper long in the low 2700s. I think it'll be based on the economic data, the headline risks, and all of those factors. I think they'll play a major part in my decision making this week in gold. Knowing that you may see some bearish price action, but just don't get jaded by the downside. There's support there that can provide a significant catalyst for a bounce to the north side, right? But hey, if it's selling off, don't step in front of that freight train. Just move out of the way. Maybe NASDAQ NQ will provide better opportunities to manage risk, right? But again, getting above, where do I get, where am I confident in being long on gold? Anywhere, if we make it back to the 2900s, of course, I'm long. That momentum starts shifting to the upside around 2882, right? I don't think I'll go any lower than the 1 hour time frame. Let's look at the levels chart. I'm gonna move this over here so that I could plot these levels on the chart. I'm gonna keep last week's, that balance range we broke out of, I'm gonna keep it there, just so, you know, when I'm looking at the chart next week, if I see us inside of that box, I'll know that, hey, you don't need to be looking shorts if we've reclaimed that balance. I will mark the low of that balance range. That way I'll know where that level, you know, where that level begins. And that level begins around 29.40, right? We'll turn that green. I'll also turn this balance box green, because I do not want to be shorting unless we accept inside of it and reject. But in here, I definitely want to have already been long, and looking to carry those longs forward. As far as levels to the downside, again, we were looking at low 2800s. We have this support from when I was long in gold on this up move, and I do remember it being a significant level, that level being 28.27. I want to keep that level in mind, and if we do break that level, I'll be looking at levels as low as 27.40. The cheapest long would probably become inside of this, so if we do break 2800 on the wick, I'll be looking at the midpoint of this little consolidation. I color code my levels, I leave them on the chart, and you know, it helps me remember price action when I come to it again in the future. But I remember these trades in this level. I remember how this level acts, and you know, just so call it market intuition. If we reach back down to 27.92, best believe I'll be in a pretty decent long. I'll have a tight stop, of course, but this is a great area to manage risk. These are the levels that I'm looking for. Of course, there are many levels in between this, but I'm not confident in getting active in the midpoint of this range, denoted by this red box right here. I'd much rather wait on the longs from lower. After gold has already had a decent sized pullback and could possibly have already put in a low, I'm not interested in shorting. At most, just looking for longs from lower, with being confident in my longs above 29.40, with wanting to take the cheapest long around 27.92. And you know, if I could find that long and scale out above, you know, before we get above 28.27 and we break back above. So let's get some pathing involved, right? We're talking about it, let's get some pathing involved. What does the bull case look like? The best long, you know, on gold, it looks like us coming down, testing 28.27 for support, maybe on a wick getting a little bit below that, right, coming down to 27.92 and finding support. Where are we neutral in gold? We're neutral in gold if we're oscillating between this level here, and I'll get those levels in a minute, give me a second. But this white area, we're neutral there, and you could probably redraw. I'll just draw another balance range, and I'll label it purple, right? So this purple range right here, let's make that purple. First, let's call it a balance range, right? Because that's what it is. It's balance, but we're gonna make it purple. Inside of this range is where I'm neutral on gold. If we never draw liquidity below and come back in, if we never draw liquidity above and come back in, it's two-sided trade there. I'm not interested in getting, you know, maybe outside of a few scalps, but I'm not interested in taking trades in gold, even though I will, because you know, I do have a decent risk appetite when it comes to trades like that. Let's get it a little bit more exact, and we'll go ahead and put those levels on the chart. It's pretty much 2900, right? We'll turn that purple as well as to denote the neutral balance range. And then on the downside, we have 28.27 will also turn that purple, right? If we get below it, you know, you're outside of the balance technically. But if you do scalp that wick, that short, and it pops back in, look below and fail, and you know, you could scale out and hold that runner, that may be a good opportunity. And know that these arrows I have, yeah, they do span days. I'm not saying that these moves will take that long. I'm saying, you know, if I were to draw how long it take, it just look like a whole bunch of stuff in one spot. But you know, I'm extending it in time, but that doesn't necessarily, you know, this could be on the open of Globex. We could have a massive sell-off in by London, where chewing back up above 28.27 and going higher, right? That wouldn't take 10, 20, 30 days. It would probably take a few hours. It could happen, right? But you know, just for transparency and being able to stream and show what the move would look like, that's why they're like that. What does the bear case look like? I don't need a path for that. Well, I'll put one though. The path for the bear case would be a break below, a retest, and a fail of 28.27, right? You know, you could even argue that, you know, we could come to the midpoint of the range and fail. But I mean, if we're really bad, I don't see us being bearish on gold. Again, looking at the monthly time frame. However, do remember, we did have a decent sized exhaustion wick. This month will be pretty notable as far as, let me move that over there. Yeah, so these are the levels in gold. But as you know, I just be nimble myself. I'm not looking to short gold. I'm just looking to long gold from lower. And the cheapest long, you know, in my opinion, comes from 27.92. But you don't want that to be a move that you just wait around for the trade to play out. If we get there and we start building structure below 28.27, it could get bearish quick and we could end up down in the low 2700s. If we wick and get down there fast and then reject the 27.92s and get back above 28.27, that's when I'm confident in holding that long to the top side of the balance range, right? But these are the levels and the pathing, and as far as trades that I'll be looking for in this upcoming week. It is a bit messy, but if you were following along, then you understand. You know, we have two long trades, like right where we immediately sell off, make a V-shaped bottom. We also have a case where we could break below the balance range. And where does this balance range come from, right? It's just, if you look at the price action to the left, and there isn't much, you know, I think we're at all-time highs. There isn't much to the left, but just based on what we do have and based on the price action that I seen in the intraday, especially if we drop down on the hourly, this is a level here. We have wick below, like what I was saying earlier. How do you find that cheapest long if we do break below the balance? If we come inside of this orange box, maybe, you know, I don't want to go too much below the midpoint of it, but something like this, maybe it's a little lower, and we immediately, you know, regain this neutral balance zone, right? That's what this path here is denoting. And maybe I'll change it to a dash line, right? That's what that path is denoting. That we have an immediate sell-off and recapture of the balance range. We maybe find support again on the low of the balance range and then take out the balance to the upside, right? That's what I would be looking for in gold. Again, the monthly chart, while it does have that big wick, I'm not necessarily bullish. I mean bearish on it. And the weekly chart, you know, it's not that bearish as well. All right, so just taking a look at the news calendar, like what news data we have coming out, and I'm looking at this for the first time too. On the earnings front, as far as I'm concerned, earnings season is over. We do have earnings still going on. Monday, not so much as far as big cap. We look at Tuesday, maybe Target and Best Buy if you want to gauge consumer sentiment and supply chain difficulties due to tariffs. Broadcom maybe as far as chips and tech sector. I think out of all the one, maybe Kroger when you consider food cost inflation, being that we do source a lot of our agricultural goods, grains, eggs, all of that kind of stuff. If you want to know how that's affecting the consumer and service sector with Crackle Barrel, those may be Costco. So there are some that are, mildly impactful, but, you may get some tea leaves as far as what is inflation doing, how is the consumer doing, what is the sentiment of the consumer when buying, when spending discretionary funds. But nothing that I'm interested in. Going on ahead, let's see, what do we have here? We have the economic calendar. So there are a lot of red folder events. We do have ISM PMI starting on Monday. That'll be, I need to switch this to Central Time. Oh, it is Central. So cancel that. Yeah. So yeah, at 9 Central on Monday, we do have ISM PMIs. On Tuesday at 9, we have jolts, right? Then we have the head of state speaking. We get the preliminary number for NFP. It is a red folder event, but the big one comes on Friday at 7:30 a.m. when we have the actual labor report, non-farm payrolls. This will be a pretty, non-farm payrolls week does tend to be a volatile week. It's the first week of the month. There's going to be a lot of positioning. The range will be pretty extended. Volatility will be high, and we have a lot of news. And not to mention that we also have, a lot of uncertainty based on, I'm not going to pick sides, pro or against, pro or con against, but we do have uncertainty as far as, drastic statements considering a third world war, things like of that nature. We got Zelensky, Trump, and Putin stirring the pot as far as, the outlook of world pretty much sanity, right? Like, this is unprecedented times. And then, there hasn't been much talk about tariffs with the European Union, tariffs on China. We have a lot of things ahead of us, especially considering the relationship between China and Taiwan, and what does tariffs escalating from the U.S. on China, how does that impact it? So there's a lot going on, so just be nimble. We have our level set, right, for gold and NQ, right? So just be nimble, be ready to react, know where you're gonna react and engage and get active in the markets, and trade well. We'll go ahead and begin to wrap up here. All right, so good deal. It's been an exciting video. Kept y'all a little longer than usual. I think we're approaching 30, maybe 45 minutes, but we had a lot to cover, right? Got some good, solid levels to get active with in this upcoming week. We covered the news and anything that could blindside us on our trades. The message today is just be nimble, keep your head on the swivel, and be patient. Wait on those levels to execute, manage your risk well. Go ahead right now. I'm about to put the levels up in the usual spot, but before I do so, I just ask, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I really do appreciate y'all keeping me company on this journey, and we look forward to further future, winning trades and losing trades as long as we lose well, right? Let me go ahead and get those levels up. All right, so the levels are in their usual spot. Go ahead, mark them down. Let me know if you have some more relevant levels. Let me know if my levels in the past have worked for you. Anything I could do better on these videos. Like I say, I appreciate all criticism. I appreciate y'all being on this journey with me. Trade well, trade smart. Darnell Price out.